Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Wellness Day, a podcast coming to you every Wednesday here from the Jahangir Wellness Center. My name is Kavas Jahangir, and here from the JWC studio, I've got a very, very special guest. I've got the youngest trustee from Jahangir Hospital, I've got the newest trustee from Jahangir Hospital, and I've got the fairest lady from Jahangir Hospital as well. More importantly, though, is that she is the most troublesome sibling in our family. I've got Simone Jahangir here today. Hi, Simone.
Shroff.
Simone Shroff / Jahangir. Thank you for being here. Finally, we've got so many people who've been listening to this podcast that started thanks to you and many of the people here at the Wellness Center. And they've been wondering when Simone is going to finally be on screen. So we finally got you here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
What finally made you decide to be on screen today?
I got roped into this.
Good.
No, but it was always inevitable. But we had to give everyone else a shot before we came and did a special 80-year edition.
No, that's true. 80 years of Jahangir Hospital now.
80 years
a lot
of Jahangir Hospital.
Older than we are, but...
A lot older than we are, but a rich enough legacy where hopefully we can do a lot with.
That's a nice little plug. Very good. So let me ask the first question that I love asking most people is that what does wellness mean to you?
So wellness to me goes beyond preventive health checks. It goes beyond the regular aspects of sleep and exercise and XYZ. For me, wellness is really boiled down to how you feel internally.
Okay.
It's also being able to be true to your own, being true to yourself, being your most authentic self. Because if that doesn't happen, then that could lead to, not enough sleep. You could lead to various health problems. It could kind of lead there. So I think wellness is really deep rooted. We just call it wellness now. Wellness has a connotation of having, of being massage therapies and or other therapies, preventive health checks. But wellness is really like a state of being.
Your happiest self.
Yeah, and you're more in your authentic self of how you can do that. Because if you can do that, then you're pretty much on a path to being well in your head.
And how do you do that? Or how do you try?
Well, that's a good one. So my brother was quite the workout fanatic.
Yeah.
So
Good answer.
so maybe I have to get some tips from him. But I think it's just kind of taking a step back. Wellness also for me is to be able to take a break. Not and to get like the adequate rest, but not by way of sleep or by way of these things, but kind of stop, think, reboot. And just kind of be very aware of that process. Yes, of course, it is the health aspect as well, in terms of a health check, which we are due for. But other than that, it's more the holistic angle of what it is we're trying to do. Whether it's with a therapy, whether it's just a state of being. That's how I'd like to look at it.
Okay. Well, going back to you specifically then, because we're talking about you, you studied psychology, and particularly also with an aspect of music therapy and music aspects, which are big in our lives. Do you want to touch upon what you did over there in terms of your studying, in terms of psychology, how that translated to music therapy and how important that is as an aspect of part of wellness for a lot of people?
So I studied psychology. I did anthropology as well. And music has always been at the core of whatever it is that I've done, amongst other things. It's really the understanding of the psychology of how people may think. I also did something at Mount Sinai, which is an interesting experience because it directly related music to...
That's Mount Sinai in New York.
Mount Sinai, New York. And it directly related music with the scientific aspects of music and what music as we know it, it was an amalgamation of both of them. There's a lot more stuff that's done outside India, but I'm very happy to say that these are things that we started doing here as well.
Yeah.
We do it at the hospital. We do it at the wellness center. and I feel music is a placeholder for art therapy. It's a placeholder for dance therapy, movement therapy. Me personally, in terms of music, it's playing always around. That's my,
Yeah.
that
Same.
brings me back to life
You know.
when it's just playing. When we work, it's kind of always just in the low background.
Yeah, I can't do that.
Wherever it, but
I guess, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I'm otherwise banging away on something.
Yeah,
As in-
but sometimes it gives that break where now my husband's pretty used to me like harmonizing with each thing, so he thinks it's like part of the song now. But it's kind of gives that little, that's the flow that I kind of talk about with music. So it's not as simple as just being on stage and singing, as opposed to imbibing it always.
in whatever form.
Yeah, because something like the vocals, for example, it's not like an instrument. You are your instrument. So the more you change, the more the sound changes, the more the I mean, if you have a cold, that changes things. 2 years later, you will not sound the same as you did. So it's always a very internalized thought and feeling. And even just humming along to something will kind of bring you back and kind of ground you. So it is using music therapy in a way, subconsciously.
Yeah, yeah.
And I feel we all do that subconsciously. Like when anybody who hasn't even studied music or listens to music, when they hear it, it makes them feel a certain way. Whatever that could be. It could be instrumental. It could be just a sound. It is scientific. And in New York, it was very interesting to see how it was implemented in all the different departments, whether it was prenatal, whether it was in an ICU. ICU sound always a B or a B flat. So all the music therapies were all interlinked with that
That note.
exact note and a little up and down.
Yeah.
So it depends on which way you want to do it in. The fact that we do it here is already a huge,
amazing.
start.
Yeah. But I think what you were talking about, whether it can be a placeholder, but I think the keyword you used was flow for a lot of people.
Well, absolutely. So here's actually where I would love to touch upon. So I also do happen to know the Zentangle instructor that we have here at the Drowser Wellness Center. You'll have to ask her. No, but it's some mother. And
The boss.
the real boss, and she got us into tangling as well. She in fact made me become a certified Zentangle teacher, which at the time I was not too pleased about, but I learned a lot from that process. And it comes back to the same thing. By kind of doing these repetitive patterns, XYZ, it kind of solves a lot of problems for you. It definitely helps in problem solving. It definitely helps in if you hit a roadblock, what do you do? Because you can't erase. There's no eraser. So you have to go around that problem. And whether it's music, whether it's those kinds of things have actually taught me music in the sense of improvisation.
Yeah.
Like doing things in the moment, having that
mistakes.
flow, no mistakes. Like if you on stage and make a mistake, you have to go on. Like it doesn't just stop. So all of those things have kind of got me to where I am today, where running two companies requires that. Like it requires being adaptable. It requires, if something goes wrong, not to dwell on that and just kind of move around it and get to the end, get to where you wanted to go, but maybe not in the exact journey that you expected to get there with. Yeah.
Ooh, very deep.
Yeah.
Very deep. And I don't know what to ask you now because I have to dwell on that for a second. Yeah, it's a nice thought.
I'm glad I got you to think.
Yeah. Doesn't happen too often. Yeah. Well, look, actually, then coming back to the overall aspect of healthcare and the space that, we're both in,
Yeah.
where do you see it going in the future with everything that's coming in with technology and stuff like that? But as you said, for us, it's the heart of it is still healing people.
Yeah, because I mean, at the heart of it, it comes down to ethics. It comes down to what we've kind of grown up around, which has been in our roots, for lack of better words. But I see a very interesting, promising future in terms of the way technology has been rising. I also see some disadvantages with things like AI. I'm not the biggest fan of AI yet, personally, until there's just more about it where I can be a little more trusting towards that. But so there are negatives. So it's really taking, but there is a lot of positive as well. Technology, where it is now, as opposed to where it was just 5 years ago,
Yeah.
has come a long way. So I do feel that there's a lot of scope. There's a lot of scope in terms of the fact that we're expanding as well. So not just the tech part of it, but the general growth part of it. And to just bring in more people and move in a way that's really modern and malleable,
Yeah.
as opposed to kind of, repeating things.
Yeah.
So I do believe in, so you were saying.
Sorry, I will interrupt you as older brother. No, it's what I was saying is that basically taking this wellness center concept and making it accessible to as many people as possible and expanding on it as much as we can.
Absolutely, because it's something that's so people take for granted, for lack of better words, that their health and their wellness.
Yeah.
I mean, I know for myself, I'd been putting off my health check for the longest time. So if me, someone who does that, though I still do it, but I do put it off in my head. So if me, who's so assimilated with the hospital,
Yeah.
does that, anyone today, there is a large group of people that believe if it ain't broke, don't fix it. There's no need to
Or like
do that.
nearly like putting your head in the sand.
Exactly. So the idea is to kind of going back to the future. I think it's a really bright future. I think we have a great group of people around us, and I think the future is absolutely endless. The scope is endless. So there's a lot that can be done, and I'm quite excited to
Yeah.
already be doing it.
But what about for yourself? What is stuff that I'm going to put you on the spot now?
God.
Stuff that one thing in wellness that you haven't been doing that you would like to start doing.
So as I mentioned, my brother is a workout fanatic. So that is one thing that that is something that I'm going to assimilate into my life.
Yeah, so now you've said it in a public forum, so it's on record now. So now you're held accountable
I haven't never.
by the audience of the Wellness Center and the podcast of
So-
Wellness Day. So you are now accountable to everyone who listens to this.
So okay, yeah. So I'll get to that, because I've never been one to work out or any of that. I grew up playing various sports, and it's been that, and that's been great for me. But now I feel as we get older, it's not really about
Speak for yourself, but yeah.
it's not really about like the heavy workout, at least for me right now. For me, it's about just being like
Moving.
active, moving, and staying strong with regular stuff, like picking up a suitcase and
Yeah, exactly. It's
be
all
able to
practical stuff.
Absolutely, just do basic things with ease and to do them for longer as we get older. So that's my approach for the moment. But I do get excited when we have worked out in general. So I do like it, but.
Are you going to do this alone? You're going to bring your husband along as well.
My husband is the one who drove this whole thing. He used to go for walks, and I'd be like, I'll see you after. But then he felt bad to leave me. So
Oh,
it was
that's a different aspect.
So then now we go for walks together.
Okay, so now you're both accountable now.
Yeah. So now we go for walks together, and then we have this brother who's, gonna show us the ropes. So
You're in good hands. You're in very good hands.
yeah, excited to go on that journey together.
But coming back to the therapy side of, you're talking about for the wellness centers, and we're opening more wellness centers now.
Yeah.
What are stuff that you think that would be cool to add that we don't have today?
I think we have done really well with offering an array of therapies, because that's something that's so not been done.
There's so many that even I didn't know about until we started doing them, like
Yeah.
aromatherapy.
Absolutely,
Bark therapy.
yeah, absolutely. So there's so much that I'm already so happy about the fact that we've implemented these within our programs. But I think something that may deserve a little more attention is mental wellness
Yeah.
for a lot of people, because it's just something that the podcast, in fact, the reason that we kind of wanted to do this podcast was the start of that path. in terms of speaking, having conversations of
Breaking down
things that-
taboos.
yeah, breaking under things that were just really not spoken about. And even if they weren't spoken about, they were just kind of under this carpet and, shoved there, or, just not really spoken about and really just dissected. So that was like the idea of wanting to do this and just make these conversations public so everyone has a voice. And I think that ties in with the mental aspect of what we can do for wellness in terms of
Adding more.
bringing people, adding value, bringing people out of their shells, and for them to, like I said, my version of wellness, be their most authentic self, be true to themselves without having to face any judgment from anyone.
Yeah.
So to be able to do that and be comfortable in your skin while doing that.
So do you think we need to increase the mental aspect of this is because of the amount of stress that your husband gives you? Yes.
Oh, he's my
Yes.
he's my
Yes.
he's my he's my stress buster.
Oh, okay. Good.
And in fact, this is an interesting point because there will be so many people that we've met in our past. So we run both of our companies together and we met at the workplace. So it's something that so many people said it back then that, how can you work with your husband? Like, how can you, be around him all the time? But there's such synergy in that as well. So it's a good place to be in because it makes you more tolerant. It makes you more understanding of the fact that work is work and play is play. And they do kind of mix and match once in a while, but that's not a bad thing because that brings out, passion and so I think it's a unique mix of everything.
Okay.
So he is a stress buster.
How interesting. Okay, well, I'll do the rare thing and I will give you the final word.
Oh my.
Any last words or any last final thoughts that you'd like to leave us with as we start this 80th year for Jahangir Hospital and the Jahangir Hospital Group?
So I think, as I mentioned earlier, the scope is large, immense, endless. There's a lot that we can do. There's a lot that we already are doing. And I think that there are already changes that are kind of in the system that have, already happened. But with our expansion, with our new campuses, wellness campuses, and various other centers of excellence, the world's our oyster.
Okay.
So I'm excited to kind of delve into that and see where this takes us.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, actually, I take that back. That was too much for me. I don't think I can give you the last word.
Okay, you
We
take
can probably do that together, though.
Okay.
Because for the Wellness Center,
Yep.
what is our favorite thing to say?
Don't
Just get well, stay well.
Oh.
All right. Thank you all. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. And before you leave, do not forget to hit the like and subscribe button here at the bottom. And if you have any comments, feedback you'd like to share with us, we'd be happy to take that forward and incorporate as much of that we can. And we will see you next week. Thank you.